chances are she was pulled over and got caught smoking a bowl of Heisenberg's finest by a cop. Of course, she continued to blow up my phone with calls from the jail. I knew she was probably scared, fiending for meth, and certainly about to beg me for lots of bail money, so I knew to ignore every single one of those calls. As much as I hate to admit it, the police did do me a pretty big favor that day, because I didn't end up having to file a police report against her that day. I figured that I didn't need to add more time to what she was already looking at, but at least now I knew the apartment was vacated, which is exactly what the apartment complex wanted.
Hey y'all, what's good? It's Janae. I'm back with another video, and it's been a fat ass minute since I've made a video. My PC broke and I had to sell my phone and get a whole new phone. So I got a new phone and a new laptop. I got a Mac now. I had a desktop PC, but I got a Mac now. I used to always make all my content in Mac, so it's actually kind of nice going back to it. I'm not gonna lie. But anyways, let's get right into the content.
I'm sorry I was gone, but look, I made you some content.
And so recently there's been some crazy shit going on in the BreadTube sphere, specifically with a creator known as Xanderhal. Now this creator has been dating this girl named Lainey, and they've recently run into some relationship issues, and it's like some pretty crazy fucking drama, so I wanted to go over it. Now Xanderhal made a 40-minute video like describing the whole situation, and Lanny had made some like allegations, so I'll just throw that up real quick here. You can read through it. This is what sparked the entire like online drama. There was an offline drama that was gonna stay private until Lonnie went ahead and made this twit longer. So like I said, you can pause and read the whole thing if you want. I'm not gonna read it, it's a lot. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be breaking down this Xanderhal video, and I'm going to make it into a nice, like, short, easy, digestible, fun thing, right? So if you want the whole thing with all the details, go watch Xanderhal's video. This is like a recap. It's going to be like more fun. Our story begins here with Xanderhal noticing that he's not having as much disposable income as he feels that he should. I mean, he's a streamer and he gets donations, also makes money straight from YouTube AdSense, so he should be having like a decent living, but he's noticing that he's coming short on funds. He's unable to even pay his rent, which is strange, right? So as he naturally would, he goes to his partner Lonnie and asks if she's maybe spending or something and why the funds are like this. And every time he did this, Lonnie would have like a different excuse, like, oh, it's one of your game subscriptions, or it was a auto pay bill that just went through, or she would even say it was like a glitch in the PayPal system. And now Xanderhal would accept these claims because there seemed to be no other evidence pointing at anything else. He would check the PayPal, he would check all of the credit card reports and everything seemed to line up, but for some reason there just seemed to be like money was missing. And more things kept happening that seemed suspicious, Lonnie acting more and more sus, and he decided to look in even deeper. Upon investigating deeper, he found this in PayPal, and I'm going to play this little video right here.
Of course, the summary of the PayPal homepage includes a timeline of recent transactions, but what I discovered is if you click on an individual transaction, you can click a drop-down feature that lets you archive it and completely delete it from that main feed. This, it turns out, was exactly what Lonnie was doing. After checking the archived payments feed, which you access like this, by the way, this is what I found.
So yeah, that's pretty crazy. As you can see there, what Lonnie was doing is that she was able to archive these transactions that she was sending to her PayPal or sending to her friends or wherever she was sending this money to. And then she was able to hide it from Xanderhal, effectively stealing money from his income right out of his pockets, right under his nose, without him knowing the entire time. This is absolutely insane. As you can see, the long list of just how long this has been going on, well into the year of 2021. Xanderhal claims that there are even more things that have been archived, but this is just how many were being able to be shown in the recent history. So who knows the full extent of this? I mean, it's truly heartbreaking to see this happening, especially to a young creator who, you know, just started making a living for himself. I mean, I can put myself in those shoes and be like, once I start making money, I want to be able to appreciate that lifestyle I built for myself. I want to be able to do what I want and live a good life. And the fact that this person who claims to love him was stealing from him to make her life better and taking from him, that's really fucked up, you know? And it gets even deeper. So apparently this bitch is addicted to fucking meth, right? So I mean, that becomes a little more understandable as to why she would do something like that. Addiction leads people to do crazy shit and steal and take money and sell things and do whatever, do shit that they would typically not do. So after this happens, Xanderhal ends up talking to one of her friends that she had a falling out with, and yeah, she confirms all of this, the addiction, everything. I'm gonna go ahead and play that real quick.
And she did not seem surprised to hear the news that Lonnie had been stealing from me for at least the past 7 months. It was in this conversation that Emily informed me that Lonnie had a gambling addiction and smoked methamphetamine, and that these were things that she had an addiction to well before me and her started dating. We exchanged a few texts, but after a while we had a phone call that lasted 10 hours, in which we basically shared stories about times that Lonnie fucked us over, stole from us, and generally related with each other with all the horrible things that Lonnie had done to us. Emily did confide in me, telling me that she'd hoped that Lonnie would one day just come clean and admit to all the things that she'd done to her, but not to ever expect it. Apparently, she really does believe the lies that she's told everybody, and she'll take them to the grave. Emily also informed me that Lonnie had apparently gotten her ex-boyfriend evicted from his place by not following through on making sure rent got paid, and not only that, but hiding the eviction notices their landlord was leaving on the front door.
So after all this news breaks, Xanderhal is knowingly upset, right? Anybody would be. So immediately he decides to let her know, you know what? This is over. This is fucking over. You need to move out, right? So they're packing up and everything. And while Xanderhal is packing up, Lonnie is nowhere to be found. She is somewhere else. She has not been home for a few days, you know. So Xanderhal is packing everything up, getting the fuck out of there. His plan is to go live with his mom until he can get another apartment. He's hoping to move somewhere in Seattle. So while Xanderhal is packing up all his shit, the AC breaks. And if you've ever lived in an apartment, apartments get fucking hot, right? So, and the AC breaks, and they live in California. So that's real bad. So the AC broke, and Lonnie has this cat that she's just left there. And according to Xanderhal, the cat's not really taken care of that well by Lonnie, and Xanderhal was concerned. So Xanderhal ends up packing up, moving out that day because the AC broke, and he takes the cat with because he doesn't want the cat to be left in the hot house unattended, right? So this is one thing that Xanderhal has received a lot of shit for and everything, and Lonnie claims that he's stealing the cat and there was no reason to take the cat. She claims that the AC was only broken for a night. Obviously, this is just her word against Xanderhal's word, so who knows what the truth is, if he should or shouldn't have taken the cat. But honestly, like, I'm a cat owner. I love the fuck out of my cat. My cat is the most amazing thing. So, like, I can relate to, like, if someone took my cat without my permission, like, that would really fuck with me. But the thing is that why the fuck wasn't she home for so many days? That's another thing. Like, I would be with my cat, and if I was gonna live somewhere else, I would fucking take my cat, you know, because my cat is my pride and joy. My cat, you know, is my everything. I fucking love my cat. So, you know, I could see where Xanderhal was coming from. Like, I'm not gonna leave this cat in this hot ass apartment. And he claims that he does want to get the cat back to her, but that's been difficult working that out. So hopefully she'll get her cat back, you know, and everything will be just fine. I'm gonna let Xanderhal explain his side of it for himself right here. So I'm gonna throw a little clip up right here.
of Palm Springs, you know that when your AC breaks, which is pretty common, it fucking sucks. And that's exactly what happened one night while I was procrastinating on packing. The AC broke down, completely non-functional. And I don't do very well in 110-degree heat, and you know what else doesn't do very well in 110-degree heat? Computer hardware and cats. Now, normally it takes a couple days for the maintenance guy to get out and repair the AC. One day if you're lucky, so I knew I had to get out of there a lot quickly than I originally intended. So I finished my packing, got the cat, and expedited my move to my mom's place. A lot of people are wondering why I even took the cat Luna with me. Remember, at the time, Lonnie wasn't even living in the apartment. Leaving the cat there with no AC on a 110 to 115 degree day and just like, I don't know, filling her cat food bowl with some food and one with water and just leaving her there didn't exactly seem responsible. She's a 13-year-old cat at this point, and I'm sorry, but that's just downright animal abuse if I'd done that.
So yeah, so that's crazy. So another thing that has transpired during this entire situation is Xanderhal gets a knock on his apartment one day, and it's the apartment manager. And now the apartment manager is telling him that, hey, you're 8 months late on rent. Now Xanderhal knew that he was a few months behind on rent, but he did not know that they were 8 months behind on rent. And the reason is because apparently Lonnie has been like taking all of the like warnings and the eviction notices that if they don't pay their rent, they will be evicted. So the situation they're in right now, he explains everything that's going on, and the apartment manager was more than willing to help Xanderhal in this situation because Lonnie was stealing from him and just doing crazy shit, taking the fucking eviction notice signs, which is really messed up. I don't know why she would do that because that doesn't benefit her in any way if she lives there too. Like, so I don't understand the logic behind that. Maybe the bitch was just on meth, who the hell knows. But anyways, they work something out where if nobody is in the home at the time of the eviction, there will not be an eviction record on Xanderhal's charge. However, they have to get everything out of the apartment because anything that's not taken out of the apartment will be at the county dump. So they need to have nobody in the apartment to avoid the eviction being on Xanderhal's record, and they need to have all their shit out or else they're gonna lose it. And what happens next is pretty crazy. So I'm gonna go ahead and let Xanderhal talk about what happens when him and his mom go over to check and see how Lainey is doing packing.
I'd hoped that she actually was packing. I even brought over some empty cardboard boxes to help her pack if she needed them. But of course, when I got there, I instead found that she'd put some potted plants outside to make it look like she'd moved even more in, instead of moving out. So this was making me a little bit worried because it was becoming obvious that Lonnie might be trying to get an eviction on my credit as revenge for me breaking up with her or something. Or at the very least, maybe she just didn't care if it happened or not and was just serving herself. So I gathered up the last of my things, packed them up in my mom's truck, and told her everything in the apartment is up to you now. Take what you need and leave, because when the deadline date comes, everything left in this apartment is getting trashed by the complex. My mom even reached out and offered to help her find a new place, and she repeatedly rejected these offers, coming up with all sorts of excuses for why these suggestions given to help her somehow weren't good enough. And the only alternative is somehow for her to stay in the apartment and for me to get an eviction. Talk about entitlement. Later, I was contacted by 2 people on Instagram. The lead singer of the band that Lonnie will occasionally backup dance for, as well as the other backup dancer. They didn't know I'd broken up with Lonnie, and they were asking me if I knew where she was. Apparently, they had a gig up in Idlewild that night, and she just didn't show up, and she also wasn't answering their calls or texts. Now, to be clear, no call, no shows are basically unheard of with Lonnie when it comes to this band. I explained that I'd broken up with Lonnie after I found out she was stealing shit tons of money from me and most likely spending it on a meth and or gambling addiction. They told me this really didn't surprise them because lately Lonnie had been hanging out with some quote-unquote creepy guy named Cole who would just sit in a car smoking out of a pipe. She claimed it was DMT, but well, let me just say meth and DMT look very similar when someone's smoking them. This basically solidified my mind that not only was Lonnie addicted to methamphetamine, but she was hanging out with some pretty bad people now too.
So Lonnie is not making this situation easy. She is being very defiant and not cooperating, packing everything up. She is just staying in the apartment doing nothing. This is causing Xanderhal to become increasingly worried that Lonnie might be trying to make it so that he gets an eviction record on his notice. And to make matters worse, he now finds out from this band that she's been background dancing from that she flaked on her commitment to go and background dance for them. And she's even hanging out with these sketchy people doing drugs and shit. So things just keep heating up and getting even more crazy. And I want to tell you what happens a couple weeks later when it's very close to the time that they're gonna be evicted, and Xanderhal's starting to get nervous. So they go over to his apartment, and you are not gonna believe what they find. I'm about to play his clip.
Little more time passes, and now we're about a week out from the deadline of when the apartment needs to be fucking empty. So, we stop by the apartment to check in, hoping for the love of God that Lonnie was actually packing her things and preparing to move out, even if it was last second. So, I unlocked the door with my key, opened it, and pushed the door inwards, but it was blocked. My assumption was that she'd barricaded the door, but it very quickly became obvious that she'd installed some kind of swinging lock mechanism. This was clearly installed specifically to make it so I, the only other person with a key to the apartment and the only person on the lease, would not have access. This is illegal. Since my mom and I weren't able to enter the apartment and she wasn't answering the door and it just didn't seem like she was there, and we didn't know who she could have in there, we were kind of freaked out, honestly. We decided to just leave and come back later, possibly with the police. And it wasn't until the next day when we checked my mail, which was now being redirected to my mom's condo, that I discovered a credit card bill. It was a bill for $75 on a credit card that I had certainly never in my life applied for, and most definitely never given Lonnie permission to apply for. And there was certainly only one person who could have stolen my identity as well. It was definitely Lonnie. I mean, come on. Who else could it have been? And it certainly fits her MO. Quickly, I canceled that card and checked to see if she'd applied for any others in my name. Turns out she'd applied for 2 other cards, but got rejected by both of them. Apparently, each time she did hard inquiries on my credit score, which lowered it quite a bit, and that's why I got rejected for those cards. Thank God, too, because I was able to quickly lock down my credit with the 3 major bureaus, and I called them and shut down those accounts and secured my shit very fast. Though it was all a real big nightmare. The next day, I spent basically all day typing out an entire recount of all of these events in much deeper detail than I've even told you guys for the police.
So as he goes to put his key in, as you just heard, she can't even get in. This bitch installed some sort of locking mechanism that's like going to stop a door from someone that has a key getting. What the fuck kind of mechanism even is this? It's some crazy shit. Like imagine like you're trying to avoid this eviction fucking being on your record, and this bitch just needs to get the hell out of here. And you're going in to check, and she does that. And to make matters worse, when Xanderhal checks his mail, what does he fucking find? This bitch has been trying to fucking get a credit card in his name. So like obviously like she's lashing out, doing everything, not gonna make this breakup easy. But it only gets worse because he ends up getting a call from the county jail. And I'm gonna go ahead and play another clip here.
Later that same night would be, to this day, my very last contact with Lonnie. The messages she was sending me started out kind of mean, like insulting my masculinity and calling me a pussy for breaking up with her over text. I mean, she wasn't home, so what else was I supposed to do? She realized that tactic wasn't working and started to incorporate the sort of, "Oh, please call me. I really want to listen to your voice. I'm so sorry. Please talk to me." She started to try to like guilt trip me, but I recognized this as a clear attempt at manipulation and refused to talk to her and refused to call her and eventually just ignored her and went to sleep. The following morning, I got a phone call. Well, it was actually 3 missed calls from the Riverside, California jail system. It didn't take me much thinking to figure out who was calling me from jail. And after a quick search through the Riverside County Jail database, I found the arrest report and discovered when, where, and for what Lonnie was arrested for, and who she was arrested with. Every other suspicion that I didn't have concrete evidence for was pretty much proven when I read that police report. At least for me, a literal police report is about as close to hard evidence for all the lies and gaslighting she's done to me as I'm going to get, because believe it or not, even with everything I've seen, her lies and manipulation can be so convincing that I still find myself wondering whether or not I'm overreacting about certain aspects of this. She's genuinely that good at this. Lonnie'd been booked on a felony charge of possession of fictitious checks, as well as 2 misdemeanor charges for methamphetamine and paraphernalia possession. And the guy she was arrested with, none other than the creepy Cole guy, was also charged with possession of meth. He was also charged with altering or forging a false ID and a fictitious checks charge of his own. The dude also had an out-of-county warrant for narcotics sale, so he doesn't get bail. And based on the booking time and the location of their arrest, I was able to put together the basic story of what happened. Lonnie was arrested in Temecula, as you can see from her public police report, and that's literally over 2 hours and on the other side of a mountain from the town that we live in. She was arrested on just some random road, nowhere with houses or anything like that, so I certainly wasn't doxing her address. Chances are she was pulled over and got caught smoking a bowl of Heisenberg's finest by a cop. Of course, she continued to blow up my phone with calls from the jail. I knew she was probably scared, fiending for meth, and certainly about to beg me for lots of bail money, so I knew to ignore every single one of those calls. As much as I hate to admit it, the police did do me a pretty big favor that day, because I didn't end up having to file a police report against her that day. I figured that I didn't need to add more time to what she was already looking at, but at least now I knew the apartment was vacated, which is exactly what the apartment complex wanted. This did mean, though, that after the deadline, everything left in that apartment was going to end up in the county dump. With only a few days left until the deadline and Lonnie in jail, I went to the apartment. It was, of course, still locked with that locking mechanism Lonnie put on there, but thankfully, the back sliding glass door was unlocked. I assume the back sliding glass door was how she was getting in and out while keeping that locking mechanism flipped so it would keep me out as well. Upon entering the apartment, I was appalled by what I can only describe as an assault on my senses. Lonnie had turned the apartment into a frat house after a party. She fucking trashed that place, clearly knowing she didn't have long that she had to live there anymore. And what I found in that kitchen nearly made me fucking vomit. The fridge was filled with fucking rotting food that she'd bought weeks ago. The trash can had clearly not been taken out in over a week and was buzzing with these tiny little flies, just an army of them. The cat food bowl hadn't been taken care of in a month. The cat was with me, and the cat food bowl was still sitting there full in that apartment, and Lonnie didn't do anything with it. So it crusted over and grew a colony of maggots. And there were dishes stacked up to the tap in the sink. And don't even get me started on the counters, which were literally covered in bags and boxes from fast food places and restaurants with little nibbled, half-eaten meals that she didn't even bother to put into the fridge for later.
So after this happens and she's calling him, trying to get him to pay a bail, he's not even gonna pick the fucking phone up. Yo, fuck this bitch and this random ass Cole guy that she got arrested with, you know. He's basically feeling like, I don't give a fuck, I'm not obligated to help her. Which, you know, it's valid, right? Considering all the crazy shit she's done to fuck him over and the crazy shit that's going on right now with, like, her trying to get an eviction on his record, which is super destructive if you're a renter. It's incredibly hard to find a place that will rent to you if you do have an eviction notice on your record. And not notice, and a full eviction. I'm sorry. If you have an eviction on your record, it stays there for like 10 years, and it can be incredibly hard to find an apartment. So this is very understandable. But what Xanderhal finds when he is actually able to get into the apartment after she's locked up is truly horrifying. The place is fucking trashed, and he finds a fucking drug lab. So I'm gonna go ahead and let Xanderhal tell it himself. And
all of that was one thing, but what really upset me was what it seemed Lonnie was preparing in the apartment. On her desk, she had some basic arts and crafts equipment, like a board for cutting specific lengths of paper, as well as a laminator. She'd also left behind what was clearly her to-do list on a piece of paper of things she planned to do in the apartment. I should actually say they, because it was quite obvious this Cole guy was staying in the apartment too now. On the to-do list, I shit you not, literally included an item that said, buy something, I think it was called a cricket, in order to make fake IDs. I'm not kidding, by the way. They added the "for making fake IDs" at the end. Yeah, I held on to that in case it becomes relevant, in case I have to press charges for ID theft. Unfortunately, that piece of paper on its own isn't really illegal, but it might become relevant if I need to press charges. And what did I find in the living room other than a big package of shrink-wrapped assorted jars, along with what seemed to be a beaker and some other glassware they just bought sitting on top of it? Now, I've seen Breaking Bad, and I've seen Walt and Jesse's meth lab, and it certainly wasn't that. Like I said on Chud's stream, I don't know what drug, if any, she was planning on making, but I'm just glad she hadn't started yet, because if she had, I would have had to call the police for them to go clear the building, because that apartment hadn't been inhabited for days, and good lord, I grew up in Florida, and I know better than most of you guys what happens when a neighbor leaves a meth lab unattended. It happened to my best friend's neighbor in middle school. Anyway, I'm not accusing her of making drugs in my apartment. She'd clearly not gotten to that yet, but she was clearly planning activity.
So this bitch fucking completely trashed the apartment, isn't cleaning, isn't doing dishes, has food, rotten food in the fridge, is motherfucking has like a to-do list of like criminal shit to do. They have a little thing to make drugs, they have things to make fake IDs. Who the fuck writes a criminal to-do list? Like, that shit's so stupid. But yo, and the crazy part is that all the time that she had to be doing this, she didn't even fucking do any of this shit. She didn't even like fucking get on her hustle criminal shit, because she's fucking high on meth all the time. So yeah, so it's a really crazy fucking situation. The bitch is locked up, and it's about to become that time where the eviction is gonna happen. And thank God Lonnie is locked up, because that means that Xanderhal will not get a eviction notice, or he will not get I keep saying that, he will not get an eviction on his record. So thank God for that. But he does, out of the kindness of his heart, he takes some like sentimental items, some items that have memories and mementos, and they're just very important to Lonnie, and he puts them in a storage facility. But all of the things that she could buy back, he just lets go to the dump, which, I mean, you know, it's not the best thing to do. Like, it would be nicer if he did save that, because she was locked up. But at the end of the day, with everything that Lonnie did, what can you really say? You know, it's not that surprising. Like, if you don't want people to let your shit get thrown in a county dump, then you should probably treat them better, you know, because some people will treat you how you treat them. So just keep that in mind going forward. So that's really how the situation plays out. After all this shit happens, Xanderhal wants to keep it on the DL. No reason for this to go public, and he could fucking take it all public and like bash her, right? But Lonnie doesn't feel the same way, so she goes public with this whole stupid fucking story. You can read the tweet longer, as I said. But yeah, so that's what the drama is. I want to know, what do y'all think? Do you think Lonnie's lying? Do you think Xanderhal's lying? Do you think maybe there's a little bit of lying on both sides? I just thought it was a wild, entertaining story. Please don't send any hate or harassment to either parties involved. This is just a little recap of the drama. It's just YouTube, and you don't fucking know these people, so like, this is like real life shit for them, but for all of us, like, we can kind of just look at it as this like drama situation. But please don't fucking send messages and shit to these people, because this is real life, and it hits hard, right? So like, just keep it over here. You know, we can laugh and joke over here in a safe space, but don't fucking, you know, go and send messages to people. It's not cool. It's hard on both ends. At the end of the day, what's happening here is hard for both parties, you know? But anyways, that's gonna be it for today's video. I'm back. I'm here to stay. Hella content coming. Peace out, bitches. Have a good one. Is bright, yeah. Why you think I fight high? I'm on a mission every single night of my life. Tell my story, yeah, I gotta do what's right. I'ma show you I'ma fucking fight. You know that I gotta take flight every single night. Trauma, that's a pain on my heart, that's not right. Yeah, I gotta heal, and life is way too surreal. I don't know how to deal, how to cope, so I gotta find a way that's better than the dope. I ain't doing coke, so I gotta find a new way. Yeah, I'm dealing with this pain, dealing with the rope around my neck on a daily. Why they acting like they hate me? I'm just trying to stay genuine, make a real difference. World is so different. Fuck you, I'm on a mission. I said fuck you, I'm on a mission. Bitch, I'm down to get it.